I think we can all agree sexism is a problem in our society. Misogyny, being anti-women, saying things that are sexist, either to women or men, is clearly a big thing. But the good news is that Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, who is, of course, a brilliant and gifted politician, is going to solve it all. And he's going to solve it all by an amazing new phrase. Feminist and women's safety campaigners apparently have criticised this. How dare they criticise him? He's so wonderful in every way. It calls on men to say mate to a mate if a male friend is making sexist comments. Sadiq Khan has urged men to challenge sexist behaviour, including through the Have a Word campaign last year. This is a follow-up initiative. Now we're giving them the word to say. Mate is a simple and effective intervention that can stop problematic language and behaviour. The campaign was introduced with footage of a group of men playing a video game. One of them makes sexist comments and his friends say, mate, when they think he has gone too far. Alex, this is going to solve all sexism in our society. Sadiq Khan, yet again, another brilliant policy that everyone can unite behind, just like you, Liz.
Well, I know, exactly. I really like the way you say mate. You sound like a really sort of frustrated ram. But, you know, what I was thinking is
it's more an English thing. It's when they go, mate. But
what I was thinking is, you know, actually, this is just going to create a race to the bottom, isn't it, between men? Because they're going to be, like, trying to outdo each other on levels of sexism so they can then get out the mate.
Yeah, well, exactly,
you know?
yeah.
But what is wrong with that? I literally do not care about sexist jokes or banter. Women say just as bad things to each other. We do. We say horrific things about men quietly when we're having, like, our bottles of Prosecco and stuff. That is part of humanity. Joking is funny. It's meant to be joking.
It's sometimes letting off a little bit of steam as well.
Right, and most people know when people are joking, and jokes are usually deliberately kind of on the edge and offensive.
But the point of this, though, Alex, I suppose, just let's take Sadiq Khan's side for a second here. If you're on the tube, and, for example, in London or in a train or somewhere public, and someone says something or is clearly doing something that's sexist, should people intervene? Should they not? Should they just sit there?
I think if someone's being it's so clear that someone's being offended deliberately, very deliberately offended, you know, attacked, insulted, slandered, intimidated, then yeah, I mean, that is not fine. And I have had my fair share of discrimination throughout life as a woman in politics. I mean, it just happens all the time. The filth that people write on Twitter. I don't read comments on Twitter. I just, you know, stick out a tweet and think, you say what you want underneath. You know, I'm going to mind my own business and not read it. Because you can choose not to do that as well. But this idea that somehow policing, or how you're going to police in a sort of, you know, Stasi-ish manner, private conversations by having this safe word that you say to sort of shut down humour, it's just for the birds. It reminds me of these posters that Khan put up on the Underground, which is, don't look at someone funny.
Staring, yes.
Don't look at someone funny.
We can't stare at someone.
But, you know, there is, what I have noticed, though, I mean, I'm 40 this year, and what I've noticed in the last 20 years is there is a huge uptick in the way women are degraded and devalued and treated now. There's been a complete change in social currency when it comes to the sort of sexual liberal experiment. And I said earlier, and I'll say again, the biggest threat to women, when you look at pop music videos now, when you look at the sort of things people are watching online, when pornography was a still image on a magazine with an opaque cover, top shelf of a newsagent, there was still this sense of decorum and respect between the sexes. It keeps stuff in the bedroom. Now, it's almost, you know, fetish is being popularised. It's become the norm. And so women are going about their lives now having to dress like a, you know, pork in string, as we'd say in Gloucester, you know, tied up with a few little bits of ribbon over your nipples with massive inflated lips, like you've been made on a surgeon's table for the male gaze. Pop music is just glorifying this sort of cheapened exchange of male and female relationships. Pornography, hardcore pornography.
Well, it's terrifying, actually, when you think about that, because you talk about those top-shelf magazines. I mean, the top-shelf magazines were showing, yes, naked women, but actually they weren't often showing people involved in sexual and the kind of things. I mean, there are 9-year-olds now. I think it's something like a quarter of 9-year-olds have seen something really, really. I mean, we're not talking about too consensual. We're talking about choking. We're talking about forced aspects of it. We're talking about really, really horrific things that I'm reluctant to talk about at 10 to 2 in the afternoon. That are normalised.
Yeah, I mean, children should never be seeing this content at all. That is child abuse.
Yes.
The fact the government's still done nothing about this. I'm sorry, you can pull the plug on these user user-generated porn sites. Lots of states in America have. Lots of countries in Europe have. We haven't. We're still waiting for the online safety bill. This is a massive negligence by the government. But regardless of whether children are seeing these things, any adult seeing these things, to me, is a problem. There needs to be a dissociation where if you want to go and find hardcore content, you go through the little bead curtain in Soho, you get your DVD, you show your ID, and you have maybe a sort of flutter of shame as you have to make that purchase. Instead, it's now, what, you're not watching this stuff? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And it's completely changed the way that
kids showing it to other
viewed.
kids on phones in schools as well. It is horrific what's happening.
That's our problem, not some sort of 1970s mother-in-law joke. I mean, they're all right. I don't mind those. I really don't mind banter.
Well, on that note, Michael has texted us to say, Peter, do I get a mate if I say Alex is, as usual, absolutely gorgeous?
Mate.
Should I be calling Michael out for that?
No. Wolf whistles are fine as well. Do not ban the wolf whistle.
I noticed Michael
like
hasn't texted in to say I'm absolutely gorgeous. Michael, that is clearly discrimination. Clearly, what I want to say for not texting in to say I'm gorgeous, mate. Yeah, there we are. John on Twitter says they're going to stop the poor and workers having cars. We need those two parties out quick. Ray says, when I was a CID officer, I dealt with a council lawyer who told lies to court under oath to obtain a warrant for the housing officer, which I could prove. The CPS wouldn't prosecute it. I was told by another lawyer why. Sir Mac on Twitter, let me get this right. The next time I go to London, I'm faced with a mugger or someone who wants to stab me. I shout, mate, and they walk away saying, sorry, governor, my bad, which is an interesting one. I don't think that's going to work somehow. I don't know if the policy continues in that way.